Okay, so today is not going to be an exactly typical day because normally I would have posted a video for you to watch and then you would have taken the notes as homework. And get used to that. That's the way we'll do it. The videos will be short, as you've noticed. But today, in the interest of time and just to kind of show you how this works, I'm going to give you the notes for today, and then we'll look at some examples together. Now, if you've watched the introduction to the course, remember that I have high expectations of participation. Now, it's a little harder online, and I'm going to be a lot more forgiving online than I will be when we get to class as far as what information you have. Because if I know that there are going to be times when you simply can't watch the video. It happens. I get it. There are times when I simply can't get the video produced and put out there, so it happens. I don't have any problem with that. And if we were in class, even if I called your name to ask you something about the video, then you could just look at your neighbor's notes or something and be able to make up for it. Clearly, that's not going to happen when we're online. So you need to be very diligent about watching the videos. Now, to help you with that, I'm going to do these classes are going to be quite short, so you're going to have plenty of time. You've seen the videos. For those of you who watch the videos, you've seen that they're only 5 to 10 minutes long, so it's not like it's a huge ordeal to watch them. You should have plenty of time. Then when we get to class, what we'll do is the first thing we'll do is we'll talk about the notes that you took, and I'll walk you through exactly what that's going to look like with the notes from today. So you'll never be asked to answer a question that you cannot answer, right? Now that means you may be have asked to do some mathematics, but you'll have the notes and the process right in front of you. I will give you all the structure that you need to make sure that that you're never just caught out, right? I'm not going to just say, what's the answer to number 7? So don't panic about the fact that I'm going to be asking you to answer questions. Now, so we're kind of doing I do, we do, you do situation. So first you'll have the notes. We'll talk about the notes. That's the first part we'll do every day during class, and I will literally call on you. Now, I'm not going to do that today because I want to show you the way things work. But so I'll be taking just some volunteers. But typically, volunteers are the people who don't need to make sure that we know what's going on, right? They're the ones who already know what's going on who volunteer to do things. So everybody gets an opportunity to shine in my class. So what I'll do is I'll have a random name generator on my phone, and I'll just push the button and choose a name, and then you'll be expected to answer the question that I'm asking. You'll see how we do that today, although, like I said, I'm just going to take volunteers today. But you'll see the types of questions that I'm going to ask. It just kind of keeps you awake and keeps you focused on the work. It's not designed to catch you out. Okay? You'll see I'll only ask questions that you can absolutely answer. All right. Then when we start working, I'll do an example of what we're working on. Then we'll do an example together where I will do the math that or tell you what it is we'll be doing. So like, for example, I'll say, all right, the first step is this. So whatever, and then somebody will tell me what that is. And then I'll give you some questions where you can work on your own. And right now, that's just going to be homeworky kind of things simply because we're not in class to be able to have the support. Usually in class, what we'll do is I'll give you a question. I'll literally set a timer and say, okay, you have 1 minute to work on this or 2 minutes to work on this. And then you'll try the problem by yourself using your notes. And of course, asking any questions of me or your neighbors if you have to. If you get stuck, I don't want you just sitting there. And then I'll say, okay, now you'll have 30 seconds or whatever to check your answer with your neighbor, because you want to make sure that you have the same answer. You're going to see me doing that a lot when I'm asking these questions. So work with me as we go. This is an active participation kind of thing. You're not just going to sit there and watch me work. It doesn't teach you anything. And then we'll discuss the problem together. Okay? And again, I'll model most of those behaviors today. We won't really see that one where you're going to work on your own and then I ask you questions about that. Again, because I don't want you ever to feel as if you don't have the support that you need. Okay? Even though these problems that you've been working, if you've been keeping up are quite straightforward for the most part, right? All right, and especially the things you're gonna see that we're doing today. Okay, so what I'm going to do is I'm just going to go to the book and we're going to take some notes from there. That's not typically the way I usually present the notes, but for just the interest of doing this and the time, usually again these would be notes on your paper that you take using the note-taking system that I explained to you, and you would be taking those from the video. Okay, so let me just share my screen. All right. So today what we're going to do is we're going to go to 1D, incomes from the government. So we've been talking about, or working through and talking about the different ways in which you can earn income. We talked about wages, we talked about salaries, etc. And if you've gotten a little bit behind there, just make sure that you get those, that you go back and get those done, so that you won't feel lost. And again, the mathematics of those has been quite easy for the most part. Now today what I'm going to do is I'm going to write notes on this page, simply because, like I said, I just want everybody to be on the same page when we're working through these. But I'll demonstrate the note taking for you. Right? So what we're going to do today is look at different ways in which you can earn money from the government itself. And most of these are things for people who are either in school or disabled or unable to work for some reason, or they're doing some other work. But the government values that enough to be able to provide you with an allowance to be able to continue your studies, etc. Right? So we're going to look at a couple of those today. And the first one we're going to look at is something called the youth allowance. Now, I know that it's on your screen and it's in your textbook, but you will take notes, and I'll be checking these as we go, so it's really good behavior. What you're doing is, when you take the notes, you're a lot more involved in the process, okay? Now, so the youth allowance is designed for young people to be able to go to school or to have extra income if they're working, if they're not working, or they're doing an apprenticeship, etc. And you can see that there are some different criteria for them. I'm not going to write all of these down, and you don't have to either, because you're never going to have to memorize these. You will always be given these charts to be able to do this math. So, for example, if you're under 18 and you're living at home, then you can qualify for an allowance of $239.50. If you're under 18 living away, it gets a little better, etc. Okay? Now, again, following these criteria. So if you're in an apprenticeship, or you're studying full-time, and you're looking for full-time work. So you'll see that there are different scales for different activities, different levels as you go. So what we're going to do is we're going to do a few problems looking at some youth allowances. Okay, and those are pretty straightforward, so let's just pop into an example. It says Ryan is eligible for a youth allowance. How much does he receive a year if he's over 18 and living at home while studying? So it's simply a matter of looking at the chart. He's over 18. He's living at home. And he is studying. So finding that, living at home, under 18, there we go. So that means per fortnight he gets $239.50, right? So we are looking for his yearly allowance. So always write down what it is you're looking for. We're looking for the yearly allowance. We know that he gets, he's over 18, living at home. I was thinking under 18. Multiply that allowance times how many fortnights, and remember we've talked about that. Fortnight means every 2 weeks, so since there are 52 weeks in a year, a fortnight is 26. Evaluate. Anytime you see that word evaluate, think solve or do the math. Okay, assign a value. So do the math. Okay, and then finally you'll get your answer. And remember, as we've been talking through this term, you're always answer in words in a complete sentence. So I have a little problem with their thing. I would really probably prefer you say Ryan would receive a yearly youth allowance of $7,490.60. As long as it's a complete sentence, it's not bad, but you really, if you're given a specific name, then you should use that name in your completed answer. Okay, so again, just reading the chart and assigning the values. Your biggest job here is going to be determining what your multiplier is. So if it's fortnightly, if it's weekly, monthly, etc. Okay, so watch those units. The next one we want to talk about is the disability support pension. So there are people who are not able to work because of some disability, and in that case, they would get slightly larger amounts from the government. But again, living at home or living independently, or if you have children, all of those things, and of course your age, all of those things are going to determine the amounts that you get. So we're just going to pop into an example there to look at these. So Mike is 20 years old and living independently. How much more will he receive each fortnight from his support pension after he turns 21? Because when he's over 21, he's going to get more money. So in this case, we need to know two different values. We need to know how much does he earn now, and how much that he'll earn after he's 21, right? So we'll find both of those values. Then we want the difference between them, so we'll be subtracting. So let's just look at this example real quickly. So the quantity we found is the additional disability support pension, or you could say the difference between the two payments. That's fine. His allowance when he's 20 is $562.20. And then when he turns 21, he's going to get $814. So you're simply going to subtract those two. Now again, watch your times, because it says each fortnight. So that's why we're able to just use the values straight from the chart. But what if they had said yearly? I would have to compute each one of those for a year and then find the difference, right? Or you could find the difference and then do that times 26. Yeah? So make sure that you're really reading carefully to determine what is the question being asked. Okay? But in this case, we're just looking at fortnight. So his additional disability support pension is $251.80 per fortnight. The who, what, when, and where. Make sure your sentence is very complete. And then finally, the last one is this study program. So that's for students, the people who are studying, and it's really actually for adults who are studying. So 25 years or older, studying full-time or doing an apprenticeship or traineeship. And in that case, you get fortnightly payments based on your marital status and whether or not you have children. So let's just pop into an example here. We're going to do some other examples together, so don't panic. Jen and Brad are both full-time students living as a couple with no children. What is their combined annual income from study? So we want their annual study allowance. So we're going to see how much they receive each fortnight. Well, they're both full-time students living as a couple with no children. So a couple with no children would get $437.50 each, right? So these are per person. So each person in the couple who's actually studying. And so we need to add that together. And since we're looking for the annual allowance and we get paid fortnightly, we need to multiply that by 26, and that will give you your total. And again, you're going to write your answer in words. The annual study allowance for Jen and Brad is $22,750. I would really prefer that you give the who, what, when, and where. So if you're going to do that, then you should probably include the name of the people earning the money. Okay? So the mathematics behind these is very straightforward. You're only problem, if you have any at all, is make sure you watch out for these time differences. Sometimes they're asking you per fortnight, sometimes it's for annual, etc. Okay? So hopefully that looks pretty good. So what I'm going to do is I'm just going to use the youth allowance one just to kind of walk you through it. Now, I didn't walk through steps here because they had written them down, so we'll use these steps. So what I would say is, say that these have been the notes or the steps that you had taken in the video. Then the first thing I would do is say, okay, last time on the video you learned about dealing with or figuring youth allowance, right? To find a youth allowance, the first thing we need to do is what? And then whoever I called on would say, we need to write the quantity to be found. Now, you don't have to make that up. It will be absolutely in your notes. All you're going to be doing is reading along with me here. And that's just to expose you to the notes and to make sure that I can see that every single one of you have all of the notes that I need you to have. Okay? Then the second step is to multiply that per fortnight, or by the number of fortnights. Okay? And again, I probably will never be wording my notes exactly the way they do. I'll be trying to make it as simple as possible. Then you need to evaluate. So I would say, okay, so I would call on the next person and say, okay, what's step 3? And you would just read step 3 for me. Okay? Then I would call on somebody and have step 4. And that's all we would do in the beginning. Just the steps alone. Okay? How do you compute a youth allowance? All right? Now, there would probably be some other notes in there because I might ask you, what is important for a youth allowance, right? You need to make sure that they fit the information in the chart, and so we might talk a little bit about that. So the notes will change a little bit depending on the topic we're looking at. Then we'll go to an example in class, and it won't be these that are already worked for you. What I'll do is I'll go to your exercise, and you'll see that in just a moment, and I'll work one using exactly these notes. Right? So first we need to write what we're looking for. What are we looking for is what I would write instead of that. All right? Then how do I find it? So we'll multiply that allowance per fortnight, or what times the time. And again, I would be just giving you general notes. This one is very specific to this problem. Then evaluating that and writing your answer in words. And while I'm doing that, I'll do the whole problem, but I might ask you to tell me what the next step would be. And the reason I'm comfortable with that is because I know that you have them right in front of you. So all you'd have to do is just read to me. Okay, so what's the first step? I need to write out what I'm looking for. Find write out what thing I'm looking for. Okay, including times if you have it, etc. So then I'll do one for you, and I'll do that in just a moment to show you what I mean. Then the second one is the we do. And in that one, I'm going to say, okay, so what is it I'm looking for? And then I'll call on a name, and you'll tell me I'm trying to find the youth allowance. Okay, to find the youth allowance, the first thing I need to do is see what allowance I'm looking for. Is it yearly, fortnightly, etc.? Then we'll do that math, if there is any. In this case, it's just writing a word. Then I'll say, okay, the first step in doing that is to what? And you'll say multiply those together. So then we'll multiply those together. I'll say, what two pieces of them am I going to multiply together? I'll say, okay, so how much does this person earn, and times what number, if it's every fortnight, etc. So you'll see me walk through that through one of them in just a moment. I'm not going to call on you. I'm going to ask for volunteers, but we'll work through that just so that you can know what to expect. And then, not now, but if we were in class, I would give you a problem to work on your own, and then we'd check our answers with our friends or our neighbors, and then we'd work it out together. Okay? So that's why I didn't want to do a video today. I wanted to be able to explain to you, again, how the class will run and what expectations I have of you. I expect everyone to participate fully, all right? Now, having said that, we're going to get started, and so hopefully you all have your calculators with you. If you don't, now would be a good time to grab it. so that we can work on some of these problems together. So we'll just go to the exercises. Now I'm using the interactive textbook that from Cambridge Go, and hopefully you got those directions on using Cambridge Go. It's just Cambridge Go from Cambridge.org. You can just Google Cambridge Go and then use your Terrace email. And the password for the first time, if you haven't set this up, is simply Cambridge123. And once you've signed in there, then you need to change your password. So because everyone's password is that originally, okay? So Cambridge123 is the password that you'll need. It has all of the exercises, etc. Now, so you'll be able to follow along in the book, and then you'll be able to go to your exercises. Now, with your exercises, however, they give you places for workspace. I do not want you putting your answers, putting your answers, your work here. I want your work on paper, right? But what I do want you to do is I want you to check your answer on every single problem, because you need to make sure that you're doing it correctly. If you're not doing it correctly, then what you're doing is you're teaching yourself how to do it wrong, and that's not a good place to be. So check every one as you go, whether you're using the physical textbook or Cambridge Go or the thing from Campion, the electronic version of the book. Make sure you're checking your answers. If you don't get the answer right, go back to your notes and see if you can figure out why. As a last solution, here are the work solutions for these. So make sure you can check that to see what they did and see where you went wrong, right? Or you can wait until you get to class to be able to talk to me or one of your colleagues. Whatever you need to do to get the support that you need. Okay? So here we go. Nikki is eligible for a youth allowance. She is 17 years old and living away from home. How much does she receive each fortnight? Okay, and they're not giving us our chart, so we'll just pop back to the chart. So we need to see then, we need to ask, first of all, what is it we're looking for? We're looking for a youth allowance. Okay, so she's getting a youth allowance. If she's eligible for a youth allowance, we need to know how old she is. She's 17, and she lives away from home. Write down everything that you could possibly do. And our question that we want to see is, how much does she receive each fortnight? Since it's each fortnight, we'll be able to just read that value straight from the chart. We won't have to do any mathematics at all. So, going back to our chart, 17, living away from home. Sorry, give it a moment to catch up. Sorry about that. I should have just gone to the section, not back. Sometimes I worry about me. You feel free to as well. So she's under 18 and living away from home. Therefore, she receives a stipend of $437.50 per fortnight. So, and I forgot what her name is already. Who cares? We'll just call her Susan. So Susan will receive, and then the amount and the where. So the who, the what, and in this case, not where, but when. Okay? Right? And that's what I'm going to ask of you to do. Now, again, just like we did that time, I walked you through the question and how to do the process. But when you're doing it, otherwise, well, you'll be doing more, a little bit more. How much does she receive over the year in total? Well, if she received $437.50 per fortnight, all we need to do is change that to times 26 to be able to find the actual answer. Anybody have a calculator handy? You're all still there, right?
So it's 11,375.
And don't forget your units, so dollars. Perfect. Good job. Okay? All right, so fairly straightforward. Now, I do want you to be careful because these lessons have been like that, very straightforward and very quick and easy to get done. That's not going to stay the case, but it's lucky for us when you're doing your own study, when you were studying by yourself, and when we're doing the online, it's nice to have something quite easy to work with. Okay? Now, again, disability support pension, you're just going to be reading the information from a chart and make sure that you're watching what time period that you're looking for. Okay? So let's do this one, and I'm just going to take some volunteers. So here, Connie receives a disability support pension. She is 19 years old and living at home. How much does she receive each fortnight? So we're looking to see the disability support pension, okay? In order to find out how much disability support pension she's going to receive, I need to know two pieces of information. Can anybody tell me what those two pieces are? I'd give it to you right here. Just sing out, anybody, everybody, who cares? This is the group participation part. Anybody?
Age and the time.
There you go. So we need to know her age at the time and one other piece of information. What other piece of information do I have to know in order to use the chart?
She lives at home.
There you go. Yeah. Does she live at home or does she live away? Okay. So you see how this works. I'm going to give you plenty of support, and of course we'll have notes in front of us, which we don't have this time. In this particular case, I'm looking for the how much she receives for when. Anybody?
Per fortnight.
Just per fortnight. Excellent. Good. And since the chart gives us the information by fortnight, then we can just simply read straight from the chart. Okay? If we were looking for yearly, we'd have to do a little math. So 19, living at home, and disability support pension. So let's go back to, there we are, disability support pension, 19, living at home. So she's between 18 and 20 years of age, living at home. So therefore, she receives $412.80 per fortnight. Okay? So, again, I've forgotten her name, but who cares? So we'll just say Susan receives $412.80 per fortnight. So make sure you're answering the question in a complete sentence. Okay? Except after C, so it should be E. All right. Don't judge my spelling. This is a math class, not an English class. Okay. Now, the next question, they wanted to know how you could do it per year. How much does she receive per year? So in order to be able to calculate how much she receives per year, I need to know how many fortnights there are per year. Somebody tell me how many fortnights per year?
26.
There you go. So we'll simply take the amount she gets per fortnight times 26. And who has a total?
$10,732.8.
Okay, so we'll just put an 80 at the end. That's perfect. Right, like that. So there is the amount that she receives per year. And of course, you need to put this whole sentence with the new amount. Okay? So very straightforward. So again, the mathematics here is not difficult. What I'm really looking for here is to just kind of guide you into what I'm going to expect from you each day. Okay? So let's just recap that little process. So your first step is to watch the video. If there is no video posted by the end of the class day, either that means that it's something that I want to do with you in class, or I simply wasn't able to get it done. So don't panic. If it's not there, say by 4 o'clock or so each day, then it isn't going to appear. So you don't have to keep looking back. Okay? Now, after you watch the video, or while watching the video, I want you to take notes. Take good notes. You don't have to worry about what it is you need to write down. All you have to do is write down the same thing I write down. Okay? Then you'll know that you have all the information that you need for class. Then, in class, and that means online as well, the first thing that we'll do when we get to class is we'll review the notes. And now that's very active. That means I'm going to call on people to read the notes, right? So you need to watch the video. Now again, in class you'd have more support, so if you didn't watch the video, you could just borrow your neighbor's notes and answer my question for me. Online, you're not going to have that option, so if you don't get the video watched, you can just say, I'm sorry, I didn't watch the video, or I'm sorry, I can't answer your question. I'm not going to judge you for that right now, right? Now in class, I would just sit there and wait and say, okay, well, you don't have an answer, steal one from your neighbor, right? But we'll review the notes. Then we'll do an example. And the first one I'll do completely. I'll tell you what step I want, or I might ask you what step I should do, but I'll do the math. Then we'll do one where I'm going to ask somebody what do I need to do, and then I'll ask someone else to do that math. So make sure you bring your calculators with you, and then you're going to have some homework time where you do. And when we're doing that, it depends on so we'll do some in class, and then you'll have some for homework. Okay. We'll spend the first few minutes every day just kind of reviewing what we did the last time. So if you have any questions, feel free to ask. But remember that we only have 40 minutes in class, so we don't have much time, which means that you don't have time to get behind. So you really need to watch your times and keep on top of it. The only way to learn something is to do it over and over and over again. And of course, you are limited on time because we are asking you to do something new over and over and over again. So you'll see that we don't ask very much of you each time, so that should give you plenty of time to do some practice. The thing that I want you to practice are the notes. The method is the most important thing. Now, I know that most of us have learned math from looking at examples, but looking at examples doesn't teach us how to do it. Otherwise, you could just watch a building being built and then go off and build one. That's not the way it works. But if you had directions on how to put something together, then you might be able to put it together even if you've never put it together before, right? So keep that in mind as you go. Make sure that you're studying effectively. And here is my favorite quote, and it is absolutely 100% true at all times, no matter what. If you cannot explain to someone else, tell someone else how to do something, then you do not know how to do it yourself. Right? So you have to be able to explain it to someone else, otherwise you don't really know it. Right? And now you might know some pieces, but in mathematics where you have to do as well as know, then you need to make sure that you really understand it. And so that means that you're going to need to study those notes, know those notes. I know you don't like to memorize, nobody does, but if you don't know them, then you're not going to be able to do things. That's why sometimes you'll be walking along and you do the homework and you feel good, you've got your notes, you did the problems, it's no big deal, but then later you try it without the notes and you're thinking, I've never seen any of this stuff before in my life, right? So that's because you're not studying effectively. You're looking at examples and not studying the process. All right? So it may be a slightly different way than you're used to working, but trust me, it'll get you where you need to be. All right. So now we used a lot of time today. We probably won't need this much time or use this much time during our regular online classes, simply because I want to give you some time to do some work. Okay? So let's go to the exercises. I want you to just do a few of these. We did number 1, so what is there, only 5? Okay, so you can just do 2 and 4, okay? And I'll always post that on Spire. If you have any indication that you want to make sure that I do it right, then please make sure. Oh, well, they have some more on there, don't they? So what is this? So 1, 3, 4. All right, we've already done some of those. So There you go. So 1D, questions 1 through 4. So the homework will always be posted on Spire, and make sure that I do. If you ever come and it's not there, then please let me know. You can also access copies of the book. I went through the Spire page on the introduction, so make sure that you understand how all that works. And please let me know if you have any questions at all. I am so happy to answer questions. And just make sure you do anything that you need to do to succeed. Okay?
Hey, sir.
Yes.
Where are the videos that you're talking about?
Okay? They're right here on your Spire page. So here are the class videos. So you'll just click on the title for each one, and I'll post today's video here. You'll click on the title for each one, and it'll walk you through the process.
Yeah, okay.
Okay? And so they'll always be here. Make sure you go back if you haven't watched those already from last week. Go back and watch some of them. I know it's been an odd start of the year, so they're very short. You'll go through them quite quickly. All right?
Okay, sir.
Okay. Well, if you don't have any further questions, then